An API call can fail in more ways than a model call. The server can time out, return a rate limit, send malformed JSON, or respond with a status code your code ignores. This lesson wraps HTTP calls behind a small client. The client owns timeout, status handling, retries, and the response shape that later AI code is allowed to use. The vocabulary is HTTP methods, status codes, timeouts, retries, and authentication. The method says what operation you are asking for. The status code says how the server answered. A timeout prevents hanging work. A retry handles temporary failure. Authentication proves the caller is allowed to ask. Open the file API_client.py and find the function that sends the request. Check where the timeout is set, where the status code is interpreted, and where the response body is validated. Good API code doesn't scatter requests.get everywhere. It creates one narrow boundary so tests can simulate slow responses, bad statuses, and bad payloads. Separate transport errors from application errors. A timeout means the call did not finish. A 401 means authentication failed. A 429 means the caller probably needs backoff. Treating all three as the same exception loses useful information. Run the demo and look for both success and failure output. The caller should receive a useful result when the API works and a controlled error when it does not. That matters for agent tools. A tool should not surprise the caller with an exception from deep inside the HTTP library. The test should mock the HTTP boundary, cover a successful response, a non-200 status, a timeout, and malformed response data. You are not testing the internet. You are testing your client policy. What gets retried, what gets rejected, and what shape the rest of the app can trust. A retry policy should be narrow. Retrying a timeout or a temporary server error can help. Retrying a bad request usually just repeats the same bug and may make rate limits worse. Inline requests.get is quick, but it spreads policy across the codebase. A small client adds structure and gives you one place to set timeouts, headers, retries, and error translation. For AI tools that call external APIs, that structure is usually worth it. This also makes tests easier. The rest of the application can call your client and assert on your error types without depending on the exact exception class raised by the HTTP library. An interviewer might ask, how would you make HTTP API calls reliable in Python? A strong answer is, I centralize calls in a client, set explicit timeouts, check status codes, validate response bodies, keep authentication outside the business logic, and retry only failures that are safe to retry.